Icebergs and penguins and whales.
Oh my!
That's right. We've made it to Antarctica and survived the Drake Passage.
Welcome to Living Phase 2.
Hi, I'm Mike.
And I'm Nancy, and we're empty nesters striving to live life to the fullest.
And we're living that full life aboard Royal Caribbean's 9-month ultimate world cruise.
Oh, we sure are. Well, friends, we're down in South America. We've just left Puerto Madryn, where we saw thousands of adorable penguins.
Oh, that was amazing.
You can go back and look at our previous video to catch cuteness level 11 for that.
Yeah.
But now we're heading even further south down to Antarctica. Our first stop was to be Port Stanley down in the Falkland Islands, where we were going to see even more penguins, some of the king penguins. And we were really looking forward to that. But
the key word, I think, is we're looking forward to
hurricane conditions did not allow for that. It was just way too windy. It would have taken us 56 hours of very turbulent seas to get down to the Falkland Islands.
Right, so it was we had to use tender boats, and that's where your cruise ship doesn't dock. You take small boats back and forth to the island, and so it was really actually too rough to even tender. But then the captain, they did all the calculations, they looked at the weather, and it was going to be absolutely insane going through the Drake Passage. So what he did is he put the pedal to the metal, and he headed straight to Antarctica across the Drake Passage, bypassing the Falkland Islands, and that got us down and got us into better sea conditions than we would have had if we delayed the 1 day going to Port Stanley. However, what they did is they rerouted our entire trip. And then after we're in Antarctica, we are going to come back up to Port Stanley and make an attempt to go in there again. And again, I think the key word is attempt. We'll let you know toward the end of the video how that worked out for us. But we were heading down to Antarctica. Yeah.
So the Drake Passage, this is where the Atlantic Ocean meets the Pacific Ocean. It has some of the most turbulent seas on the planet, really, and they were getting us ready for that. They told us to take our seasickness medication. They had the seasick bags out on the stairwells and at elevators ready to go. They were tying down all of the lounge chairs on the outside decks, on decks 5 and 12. So they were battening down the hatches, and the seas were getting rougher. Yes, I did experience seasickness.
Yeah, so it was, we were really crossing mostly during the day, and I fared fairly well. I started to feel it a little bit, and it was more on the side of, to be honest, I was editing some videos, and the worst thing you can do when you're going through massive seas is look at a screen inside. What you want to do is look outside, look at the horizon, move around, keep yourself active, and but yeah, we had a lot of the crew and a lot of passengers that got seasick. However, overall, our passage through the Drake Passage was really not as bad as it could be.
That's true.
We had anywhere from 20, I believe it was low 20s, so 20 to 30 foot seas, which sounds like a lot, and it is, but it can be much worse than that. And it would have been if the captain had made an excellent decision to bypass the Falkland Islands and to get moving on.
I'm grateful that he did, because I'm a little sensitive to some of that turbulence.
So once we made it through the Drake Passage, we approached the Antarctic Peninsula, which is a big piece that sticks out of Antarctica, and the seas were much calmer, and then we were spotting our first icebergs, and that was really quite amazing to see.
That is a beauty all of its own. I mean, all the areas we've been to have been very beautiful, but this has a very unique beauty, and just was something to really treasure. Some of those icebergs were quite spectacular with the arches and all that. Yeah, that was so neat to see.
Yeah, that was one of the first big icebergs we came upon, and the captain took the ship right in next to it. In fact, he spun the ship around a couple times so everyone could get a great view of a couple of the really amazing icebergs as we very first got into Antarctica. And then really we just started cruising. We headed down along the Antarctic Peninsula, and going into some of the inside passages. We headed toward the Gerlach Passage, but all the way along here was wildlife. We saw penguins diving through the water. We saw many whales.
Many whales. Yeah, that was
many
very
whales.
cool to see their blow spouts pop up, and then they're right there once you see the blow spout pop up.
Yep. You watch real close, and then you'll get a back and a tail quite often. And we did see a few breaches, and it's the wildlife was amazing. What really struck me about Antarctica is you have so many preconceived notions, right? And I think a lot of this entire world cruise, we're going to be busting our own preconceived notions of places and people and cultures and the whole world. And for me, I hear Antarctica and I see, I think ice shelf. You go down and it's just all ice and it's all white and it's all, and really it's, the first, especially going in on the Antarctic Peninsula, it's rugged mountains and glaciers and there is of course ice and snowpack and all that, but it was much different than I expected. When I just thinking of white ice, white snow.
Right.
What about for you?
Well, it was for me too, and I want everyone to know that this is not an explorer ship, just so you're aware that this is a cruise ship. It's not one of those that has the zodiacs that actually go and go where you can put foot.
Right, like on Elephant Island.
That we got close. But
so we were more scenic cruising, which was wonderful. But in our case, we didn't actually leave the ship. Now, they actually did launch a boat, and the crew went out. They got a couple pictures of Serenade of our ship from a distance, which are gorgeous. You can see that. Then they also went and brought aboard an iceberg. So they went and got a piece of ice. They put it in a net. They hauled it up, and they put it. And it was sat on deck for 5-6 days as we've been cruising out around Antarctica till it finally melted. And
so we got our picture and got to touch something from Antarctica.
Yeah, I even chipped off a piece and had it in Suburban. So, but it was that was really neat to get to actually bring that ice on board. So that was a lot of fun. So what we did then is we were in Antarctica a total of 4 days, from the time we left the Falklands and crossed the Drake Passage to the time we circled back around. And one of the areas we went through, as we mentioned, the Gerlach Straits, we went to Paradise Bay. And what was really neat about Paradise Bay is it's just a gorgeous area, and whales and penguins. And so we actually decided to try something new. We ordered room service in our room and set the table up actually inside on our bed, and then watched through our window, and
there's just so much to see. We didn't want to go to the dining room and miss it.
Yeah, so we watched in Paradise Bay. We went out, we took a lot of video, and it's just really sat and just enjoyed and took in the beauty. It was really quite amazing there. So we left Paradise Bay and started heading out through Schulert's Channel, and then we headed to Elephant Island. So Elephant Island is one of the areas that if you're on an expedition ship, you actually can get off. You can actually land and put a foot on Antarctica. Unfortunately, being a large cruise ship, we weren't really able to do that. Now, Elephant Island is very famous for Ernest Shackleton's expedition. So he left England, went to do a exploration of Antarctica. His goal was to get to the South Pole. It's quite a story we won't go into here. It really is. There's a lot of drama and intrigue of things that were happening in his life, and a lot of people will say he never should have went when he did. He should have listened to his captain more, all those types of things. But what happened was in the end they got trapped in the ice. They worked their way from their ship to Elephant Island in some of the lifeboats from their ship, and then he ended up going with 5 other men. He left 22 men on Elephant Island and then worked his way to the Georgia Islands, where there was a Norwegian whaling station, and then made it back to rescue those men that he left on Elephant Island. They were there for 120 days while he was doing this with the others. And it's just an amazing story. And I think the most amazing part is nobody died.
Right. And we'll put a link to that documentary down in the description below. And it really is a good watch.
Yes, if you ever make it down, and if you're just interested in Antarctica or make it down here, you really need to watch some documentaries on Shackleton. And so, that meant a lot. We, you can actually see the bay where Shackleton's men, made their camp and stayed that 120 days here. I still don't know how they survived. You look at this, and we're here in summer, and it's just stunning how they survived
the winter.
I know, it's crazy. So we left Elephant Island, and we headed our way back to the Falkland Islands, and trying to make another landing there.
We tried
is the
key word for sure. Unfortunately, with it being a tender port, the winds and the waves were just too strong. In fact, there was a celebrity ship there as well. They also could not tender in. And the thing is that the weather can change so rapidly here, and so when we're looking out on our balcony and things look good, I mean, the captain is looking 8-10 hours ahead, and he knows what's coming and what to expect. And so I feel like our captain has just made some of the best decisions. I mean, it's disappointing not to get into some of these ports, but I'm not sad or upset about it in any way, because I know that our best interest is what he has in hand.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, that's a great point, because we looked out on our balcony. They had actually warned us the night before. They said, listen, we're heading up to the Falklands. We're going to try to make another attempt at it. But he was telling us it's 80% chance we're not going to get in there. It
doesn't look good.
And I opened up the balcony curtains in the morning. It was beautiful. The seas were calm. We're like, oh, wow, we're going to get in. And all of a sudden, within about 30 minutes of that, the captain comes on and says, there is a huge gale coming in, hurricane force winds, and Port Stanley, the Falkland Islands, they're actually closing the port. And in fact, they radioed and said, any ships in their harbor, leave now, because there's this huge storm coming in. So yeah, whereas it looked calm, it was going to change very rapidly, and even if we'd have made it on shore, we'd have never made it back to the ship. So, so the great decision. Thank you, Captain Stig. You've done a wonderful job, and we appreciate that. So then we headed from the Falkland Islands, and we headed down to Cape Horn. At Cape Horn is the very, very bottom of South America, and that's where ships would swing around South America, going through the Drake Passage to go from either the Atlantic to Pacific or Pacific to Atlantic. And it's one of the most dangerous shipping lanes in the world. And you can see here the lighthouse, and then there is a monument there called the Albatross Monument to sailors that have who have passed away there. So while you look at some of these views here, I'll read the poem that's actually on the Albatross Monument.
Yeah.
I am the albatross that awaits you at the end of the world. I am the forgotten soul of the dead mariners who passed Cape Horn from all the seas of the world. But they did not die in the furious waves. Today they soar on my wings toward eternity in the last crack of the Antarctic winds.
So after we left Cape Horn, we started heading up the inside passages to Ushuaia, which is the southernmost city in the world.
Yeah, and they call it the end of the world.
Yeah, so we went through the Beagle Channel, and again, it was just truly beautiful.
Yeah.
So much to see, so many waterfalls, whales, penguins. Again, it was just a beauty unlike no other.
And so in our next video is when you'll see us going into Ushuaia, and we'll pick up from there. However, we've also had a lot of questions about, well, what did we pack? What did we bring? How did we handle Antarctica? You've seen us in some of our winter clothes here. Well, let's talk about what we did. So how did we prepare on a cruise like this to pack and what we brought? So it's important that we did layers.
Right. That was the real key. So we brought thermal underwear, thermal pants, thermal tops to wear under sweatshirts and long or travel pants. We brought rain pants along that go over
travel pants.
Travel pants, yes.
Yeah.
And our coats we've got a puffy coat which has down filling in it, and then but it packs up really it's lightweight, packs up nice and tight. But then we've got a raincoat that goes over the puffy coat, and it's a windbreaker as well.
And it's Gore-Tex, so it's fully waterproof, but also somewhat breathable. So yeah.
So again, layers were what we were thinking.
Yeah, and that's worked out really well for us. When we're up on deck, and we were up on deck looking at icebergs for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and doing video and taking pictures, and just honestly just standing there watching the beauty and trying to focus on that. We made some good selections, and the one thing you didn't mention was our footwear. We do have waterproof footwear and hiking shoes, so we can be waterproof head to toe, and also layered up to where we can be relatively comfortable in the cold for long periods of time. So that's the answer that to a question that we've gotten about what we brought, and you can see all that that clothing here. So we hope that helps and answer. As we mentioned, we're heading up to Ushuaia, Argentina, so that'll be in our next video. And the beauty and the awe and the amazement just continues, and we really appreciate you all tuning in here, and hope that you'll reach down and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of our 274 night Ultimate World Cruise adventure here. And we thank you a lot for watching.
Have a beautiful day, friends. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.